So it has officially been an entire year since one of the biggest Marvel releases of all time in Spider-Man No Way Home, and even after a full year of total free spoilers, we still have no LEGO sets. Why? What the hell? Why? Hasbro Marvel Legends finally announced that we're getting the boys as action figures in 2023. A pretty big deal in my opinion. We've seen the Funkos, Hot Toys even got in on the action, but notably none of these released at the time of the movie releasing. Instead, they released at various points later in the film's existence. Companies made sure to release figures of, Ned and J. Jonah Jameson, which are now heavily clearance, but no Spideys and no villains. Why is that? For a few years we speculated on the events and eagerly awaited the confirmation of heroes returning, which personally had me excited because that meant toys. For my birthday early on in that same year, I was lucky enough to find listings online for these early LEGO Spider-Man sets for incredible prices. I never thought that I would have the Raimi Spider-Man figure, let alone the villains to be paired with some of my all-time favorite minifigures here. But at the time I thought even if I miss these auctions, it won't matter because they're going to have these figures in the new sets anyway. I'm glad I didn't bank on that. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was tragically skipped over from the LEGO line. The license for Spider-Man brick-built toys actually disappeared when the third Raimi Spider-Man movie released, and now Mega Construx continued the line into Garfield's movies. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was only ever adapted into this 2013 Spider-Man Comic-Con figure, but nowhere does it say that it's actually him. It, totally is him. You just look at it, it's totally him. So besides that Comic-Con figure, Andrew Garfield was never adapted into LEGO sets. In fact, none of these Sonyverse movies have had sets. No Spider-Verse sets, both Venom movies were completely skipped over. Nothing for Morbius, but that was probably a given even from the get-go. But the MCU Spider-Man was a different story. Different rights agreements, different merchandising rules as well. Spider-Man is clearly displayed at all of the Disney parks. Spider-Man has more MCU movies than most of those heroes that started before him in this universe. Spider-Man was the fourth MCU hero to receive his third movie. He beat out people like Ant-Man and the Guardians. Again, movies that predated Homecoming. He's a beloved favorite character and the companies involved know that, and that's why they share him around. The money tied to him is insane because people will go absolutely nuts for merchandising, including me. The MCU Spider-Man movies received waves of sets following their movies, so why would we assume that this one would have been any different? And the intrigue came from the idea that if this is to be true, we'd actually be getting previously established characters from unrepresented movies in LEGO for the first time. It would have been really cool. And then the wave released, and it was not. We had 3 sets total, one of which is ripped from the movie, though some creative liberties are at play here, but we'll get into that. The other 2 sets are the main point of discussion here. We had a Juniors set that was named Mysterio's Drone Attack, which depicted a scene from the previous movie Far From Home. And then we had this set, Spider-Man's Drone Duel, which claimed to depict a scene from Spider-Man Homecoming, the first movie. This set featured Vulture and a strange drone that wasn't shown in any of the movies, I don't think, but the Spider-Man here is a new suit that was featured in No Way Home. At the time shown only in trailers, but we would later learn from the movie it's his suit turned inside out. So one set that appeared to be based on the new movie that felt like it definitely took place at the beginning before all of the interesting stuff happens, and 2 sets of random assortments that advertise that they are inspired from the previous movie. So let's talk about why this happened. It's obvious when you think about it, but let's discuss anyway. These sets kind of reminded me of the ideas that the Hobbit sets were promoting, but this time it's all set backwards, because instead of promoting the future, they were promoting the past with sets inspired by the previous movies. At first, the general belief was that this was a lie, and it was used to hide the fact that these villains are definitely returning. And I thought that this was a pretty clever way to hide that, but the movie actually doesn't feature these guys at all. So why did they do this? And how come one of the sets doesn't promote the past movies? In truth, the LEGO designers actually received about as much information as we the audience had. In a pretty interesting interview some months back with Mini Superheroes Today, LEGO designer Mark Stafford explained why they had to deceive fans, and it was mostly due to a lack of information.
It was very similar to Endgame, where they gave us almost nothing, because this has so many secrets in it, they don't even want a whisper of it to leak out. And again, until the day I went to the movie, opening day of course, I didn't know there was going to be more than one Spider-Man.
He also notes that the team weren't allowed to use any of Spider-Man's regular roster of villains for the sets, which led to that Scorpion-looking character that we see in the Sanctum. The build that most believed to be a Scorpion design, a hint to reveal his involvement possibly, but it was actually just a Lovecraftian designed monster.
We also knew we weren't allowed to do any of Spider-Man's regular roster of villains. Everyone we suggested, we were told no.
Oh.
So it was, and then if he needs an antagonist, something to fight against, it's Doctor Strange's basement, so make something up. something with that's sort of part insect and part tentacles. And I'm a bit of a Cthulhu fan, so I made bread and butter for me. I just made a vaguely Lovecraftian-like monster and put it there.
He also explains that the landing on that set in question was because that was all of the references that they had received, and even then it was very minimal stuff.
But the basement behind it was based on, they sent us concept art of the teens laying around in the basement with the video games and everything, and it was beautiful concept art with the gateway at the back, and you could vaguely see stuff through the gateway, like arches with statues and maybe a font. So I put those in, and they were okay with that. And then but at that point it was just the gateway, because that's all we had.
Sure.
And a sofa. Can I have more? Is there any more information? Is there any more concept art? And they were building the set at the time, and they actually sent me 60 photos from the set. They walked around and took pictures of the set, but nothing through the door. It was all Doctor Strange's basement. So I got pictures of like barrels with magic books on top, and chained up refrigerators saying "Do not open," and rows of bicycles starting with a penny farthing, going through the eras all the way up to a modern mountain bike, which is why there's a mountain bike on the wall there, because I thought, well, it might at least glimpse the bikes at the back. Didn't see them in the movie at all, but I know they're there. I've got all these set photos to look at.
Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yes.
Amazing movie.
Absolutely.
So many characters.
Yes.
Do you think it's within LEGO's interest to do a big set at some point with all the villains, all 3 Spider-Men, Doctor Strange, MJ, Ned? Do you think that's a possibility, or do you think that, the movie's going on 2 years old next year, 2023? Is it too far behind in the portfolio?
The third biggest superhero movie of all time was Black Panther when we made this. And this is coming out several years after that movie. It would be crazy not to consider it for future stuff. But again, that's just consider. We will see what happens.
Sure.
And that's as far as I can talk about any future possibilities.
Spoilers suck. Not because I don't want to be spoiled on something happening going into a movie, but spoilers just get in the way of things. You can't talk about the movie and how its filmmaking functions without forewarning everyone that you have to discuss spoilers first, and even then you get a huge side of the audience who smugly announce, "We always knew that it was going to happen anyway." Why is it a spoiler then if you knew that it was going to happen? The entire line of LEGO superheroes has been suffering from this almost from the very beginning with the Iron Man 3 sets. Disney and Marvel are so protective about their glop shitto appearances in Marvel and Star Wars that when companies are tasked with making products for those movies to promote those, they're left with nothing to work with. Marvel's success is 100% tied to its characters and its special appearances. So we're left with this weird amalgamation of things, unrecognizable scenes with a mishmash of ideas that makes the idea of the cash grab of the IP just that much more obvious. You aren't buying No Way Home sets like this because they mean something or they represent a moment that you loved from the movie. You're just buying it because it's all we have. You're just buying it for the IP purposes. I bought this set for the cool Doctor Strange cape, and look how dumb that was. That cape ended up releasing in a way better Doctor Strange set a few months later. What a rip. The Infinity Saga line is one of the best things to happen to LEGO Marvel recently, and I'm so glad that they were given a go-ahead to make it. I really hope that this line continues because, yeah, we've had a couple of releases here and there, but not to the same extent as that first great wave that was mostly inspired by Endgame. No Way Home is very high on that list solely because I want to see an Andrew Garfield and I want to see a Tobey Maguire figure. For more videos like this, be sure to like and subscribe so that you can help support the channel. Thank you very much. We hope you enjoyed.